You're listening to the Upland Social, a podcast dedicated to the bird hunting community. I'm your host, Ryan Linton, an artist, writer, and lover of all things dogs and birds. We'll gear up and hit the field with some of the most engaging and compelling voices on the bird hunting scene. Each week, we will hear from seasoned hunters, dog trainers, storytellers, wild game specialists, to everyday uplanders just like you and me. Their insights, experience, and stories will inspire and equip you to explore, conserve, and celebrate the wild places we all love. The landscape is truly limitless. So load up, drop the tailgate, and let's go. This is the Upland Social. Brian Mays has spent over a decade guiding clients through memorable outdoor adventures, beginning with turkey hunting and later diving into fly fishing. But his true passion emerged with the arrival of Miss Rebel, a German Shorthaired Pointer whose first point ignited his love for bird dogs and upland hunting. With the addition of a second dog, Miss Luna, his obsession with ruffed grouse hunting took root, shaping the vision behind Amaazen Outdoors. At its core, Amaazen Outdoors is about the simple joy of running bird dogs and sharing the woods with others who cherish the same experience. Brian is also a dedicated advocate for public land conservation, working with organizations like the Ruffed Grouse Society, American Woodcock Society, and Pheasants Forever to protect the wild places that fuel his passion. For Brian, it's all about the dogs, the birds, and the land, and creating space for others to experience that same deep connection. Brian, it's great to have you today on the Upland Social.
I appreciate it, man. It's fun to be on the other side of these podcast things once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. You're used to being the host and interviewing, and it's probably nice to just sit in the passenger seat and have some conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been on a couple of them, and it's definitely I enjoy this part a little bit more than the hosting part. I'm kind of a talker, and I've had to learn with being a podcast host to shut my mouth once in a while. Sometimes probably not enough. So yeah, it's fun to talk.
Hey, well, I like having talkers. So Brian, just give us a little information about yourself and where you're located at roughly on the map.
I guess location-wise is a big key to who I am. I'm in northwestern Wisconsin. I'm, I guess, a just certified bird hunting bird dog bum. Yeah, I run a small I run a small outfit called Amaazen Outdoors. Up here in Wisconsin, we kind of specialize in wild birds, and grouse and woodcock are top on that list. So we guide close to 30 days every October, and a little bit in September, a little bit in November every year. I try to, run my dogs 9 months out of the year. So to me, it really is about the dogs. I like to share that experience with people, and what better place to do it, chasing the king of game birds in the Northland. We have just some excellent habitat, and we're blessed for what we have up here this far east. You're talking hunts east of the Mississippi. There's not many places that offer this high density of quality habitat and a lot of game. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell, man. Birds and dogs on the brain all the time.
I hear that, man. And I've not been to Wisconsin to hunt yet. It's definitely something that's on the list. Looks like there's a ton of habitat once you get up in that northwestern part of the state and just kind of across the north in general. And yeah, I have to imagine there's, I've hunted the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I have to think that's probably similar as far as the quality of hunts that I've had in the UP. You could also get on some really quality hunts in Wisconsin as well.
It's kind of par for the course. I mean, there's some nuances. There's some little bit different habitat types in Minnesota, the UP versus Wisconsin, different soil types, which play into it as well. But in general, when you start looking at the expansive amount of land, the quality of habitat, it's kind of a shake which direction you go.
So let's talk about the soil for a second. What is unique to Wisconsin when it comes to habitat and soil type, and how does that maybe influence what the birds utilize that you've noticed?
Well, we have a variety of different soil types. So I guess speaking to a little bit more specific about where I'm kind of located, we've got on part of the area, I guess county wise, that I guide in is a little bit more of a sandy soil. So edge of barrens habitat or overgrown barrens habitat that used to be kind of oak savannas, pine savannas, that type of thing. And then we get into the heavier cover, which is predominantly maple and aspen So it's a mix of hardwood and aspen. And then obviously we've got a lot of swamp. So within that more swampy cover, the soil starts to darken a little bit, and you get a lot of different types of, you know, basically flora on the forest floor versus in sand country where, you know, you're keying in on different species. So we've got kind of a mix of sandy soil and then kind of your traditional northwoods, kind of hardwoods. Now you get north of where I kind of do primarily a lot of my guiding and start to get into like the northern part of the Chequamegon National Forest, and that's very pine heavy. There are areas that are, you know, old growth, I'd say, of oak and stuff, and there's pockets of aspen. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of white pine, and a little bit more predominant balsam kind of mixed in. And we tend to kind of hunt aspen. That's predominantly where I spend a lot of my time, is mix of hardwoods and aspen and tag elder edges and stuff like that. So it's it's relatively kind of flat terrain. It's not, you know, like you go up to the North Shore in Minnesota, and there's a lot of up and down. There's some rocky terrain there. It's kind of, you know, a different landscape. Forests are a little bit different. They're harder to cut. The soil type's a little bit more gravelly, so aspen's a little bit more sparse. There's more pine. Um, so yeah, we kind of have that mix of just about every type of cover type in that area, but we're a little bit more predominantly hardwoods down by where I guide, which I think offers a little bit better shooting opportunity for clients. It's kind of one of the reasons we hunt in that area.
Yeah, that's actually gonna be my next question was, have you noticed that the hunting, what am I trying to say right here? Like, maybe the quality of the hunt or maybe, like, the shot opportunities and how they present themselves is definitely different, like, in those, you know, you said a pine-dominated area to a sandy soil area to an aspen. Have you noticed that the quality, I guess that's maybe the best word I can think of at the moment, the quality of the hunt and the quality of the shot opportunities vary between those places?
They definitely do, and I think too there's a play for each of those different habitat types during different parts of the season, right? We might hunt in early season a little bit more sandy country and be hunting smaller pockets of aspen mixed in with shrub oak, and some of that's pretty young. It you're like, are we going to kick up pheasants in here? And part of that reason is because, you know, if you flush a bird out of this acre stand of aspen out into an oak shrub area, you're probably going to get shot at it.
Sure.
Whereas if you go brush in the middle of aspen first week of September, like you're going to hear birds, but you know, it's going to be a hard time finding them, you know, with the end of the barrel. So yeah, there's definitely a different play there. As for, you know, with clients and stuff like that, I just find that kind of the area that we guide has enough of that mix where I can, depending on the client's needs, we can kind of shift and you know, offer a little bit. Maybe we're not going to run across as many birds out in this, you know, older um yeah, maple cut, for instance. But we'll find some woodcock. We'll get a few opportunities on grouse, and those should be good shooting opportunities. And those are things, you know, I've got clients that are young like yourself, and I've got a lot of gentlemen who come up and, you know, they've come from the Appalachia countries where, you know, they used to have grouse 25 years ago. They have none left. And, you know, they just want to shoot one more grouse in their life. And so, you know, the 75-year-old guy can't bust brush like maybe you and I could all day long. So we have to kind of throw some different opportunities out there and have those plays for clients. And again, that kind of all plays into that, you know, why we're located where we're located. I feel it does offer a lot of opportunity for the average guy to, you know, somebody who wants to bust brush and see 40 birds that day.
Yeah, that's a good point too. That the thing about the logging industry and just the Northwoods in general, at least what's been my experience in Michigan, is it's pretty accessible from a just walking logging roads, at least. And so someone that is maybe an older in age, or even taking like a little kid, like it's there's a lot of times those birds are sitting right off the edge of the trail. I mean, my entire hunting, grouse hunting this last season, almost every single bird was right off the edge of the trail for me, because they love that diversity around the edge, right? So
Certain time in October where it's like, oh man, like you go out in the afternoon and that's where they all are.
Mhm.
Or you go out in the morning and that's where they all are. Like there's a period in October where trails are definitely very productive game plan.
Mhm. Absolutely, yeah, so it's nice to at least at certain parts of the season, you've got kind of that window, like you're saying, where a person can come and they don't have to just kill themselves, trying to find birds, just busting through brush, and, I mean, I like getting on the back side of the cut and all that kinda stuff, but still, at the end of the day, I was like, "Man, place where I'm finding the most birds still is, like, the easiest places to walk," so, yeah.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like, you if you plan to come to hunt up on a Saturday with me up here in October, like, we're probably not gonna do a lot of trail walking unless we have to, you know?
Right.
It's just, we're playing the game of avoiding other hunters out there too, so, there's a time and a place for every little play, but, you can definitely I know guys that do it every weekend. They come up and they walk trails all weekend. That's all they do, and they leave with birds. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just and the nice thing about Wisconsin too is we have a ton of gated foot walking only trails. One of the things I know you see in northern Minnesota a lot is you'll be on a logging road walk a mile down, and all of a sudden you hear the four-wheeler coming,
Yep.
and they're coming from the direction you're walking. And it's like, well, that's screwed that way for a while, and then you see, they got shotguns, they're grouse hunting too. And, it's just kind of that bummer. So Wisconsin has a lot of forest legacy land, paper company land. We have county land, and all of those places typically have gates where it's foot traffic only. There's areas of access with a vehicle, but then they do a nice job of having trails for people to walk. Some of them are old, but hey, it's there's a lot of really nice cover on those old trails too. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not a huge game plan of ours. We like sneaking around to the backside of the cut, cutting birds off, especially playing, that escape game because let's just face it, I'm not the only guy out there hunting these birds every year and every day for that matter. So
Yep.
yeah, there's a lot that goes into the thought process on where are we going to go, and it really doesn't even come down to what cover. It comes down to what's the client want for the day.
Yeah. Well, and that makes a good guide, right? Calculating and methodology and, trying to put your clients in the best, odds, possible. So, no, I totally get that, man. So, let's talk about your dog. So, I know you've got some short hairs. Let's get into that a little bit. What do you like about that breed? What made you choose it? Just anything you wanna share about that.
Well, it's kind of funny. I hit a point in life where it was like I grew up around dogs and mostly, labs and some house dogs and stuff like that. Never really had a pointing dog. And a friend of mine out of high school got a pointing dog, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And bless his heart, but he duck hunted with the thing, and so like I always kind of had that. I want to get one, and I want to see what it does in the field. And I'd hunted ruffed grouse growing up, just trail walking and shooting with 22s and, partridge hunting as we call it up
Right.
here. And I love the bird. I mean, best table fare to come out of the woods as far as I'm concerned. And so when I kind of got to the age where it was like, all right, I'm going to get a dog, we had kids, and there was a whole process. We were going to go, God's honest truth, we were going to get a Brittany, and we started looking at Brittany breeders, and I'm like, I don't know, $1,500, like, that's a lot of money for a dog. And I started looking again, and I found a short hair breeder, and it's $800, and I was like, that's way more my budget. And then we started researching things about short hairs, and my daughter was just like, okay, we're getting a short hair. And I got one, and I fell in love with them. They're quirky personalities. They're kind of needy, which I like a little bit in a dog, not to a certain degree. you know, they they have a hard time figuring out what personal space is, but man, I mean, they're just loyal to a fault. Like, and you come home and it's just this unconditional love. Doesn't matter how your day was. Like, they are super just happy to see you, and like most dogs. But yeah, and then I got back into bird hunting. So that'd be about 10 years ago, and it didn't take me very long to want another dog. My desire to kill and and go chase new game and travel all over the country at that point was pretty high, and I was very limited with one dog on, what I could do, how long I could go, and, the damage done to the dog, which, at a, late 20s, early 30s, like it wasn't something on my radar. So I got the second dog, went back to the same breeder, got another short hair. The dog was just out of the box. Like, I mean, I had a friend of mine train it at that point, 3-week puppy course, and we were off hunting, and dog never really went back to a trainer. And, I kind of learned how to do a little bit more of it at that point myself. Um, Through kind of life, I kind of had a change in heart in what I was doing, and, wanted to leave the corporate world and have a dog centric life. That was kind of my goal, is how do I, and so I started actually guiding fishermen, with my spare time, and then left that, my other career, as I opened up Amaazen Outdoors and started guiding grouse hunters. And I've, run a couple setters and a couple pointers every year from a friend of mine, just to keep, I mean, 45 days of grouse hunting on a dog every day in and day out, it's a lot. They just can't handle it. I'm not going to beat my dogs up like that. So I knew real quickly I had to have more dog power. And so the last couple years, we've been working a couple younger dogs. I still, run around all fall with about 6 dogs in the truck. But yeah, I've got another short hair who is from the same breeder. Is kind of I made the mistake of spaying my two other females when they were young, and I really wanted to extend that line because the breeder he's retired now.
Yeah.
So like this pup I got was kind of one of their last litters, and so we'll we'll hopefully breed her here in the coming years. But yeah, she's 2 now. She's kind of stepped up and really she's made the guide string finally. Should have happened last year. She's a little late to mature, hard charging, kind of field trial dog. And then yeah, I've got another English pointer as well who she's 1 now, and she's really come on. So she'll be guiding for us this fall too. So it'll be fun.
Right on.
4 of my own dogs. And I just find I love Jason, my buddy Jason Gooding. Shout out to him. He's got good going kennels over here in Western Wisconsin, raises some beautiful dogs. But when you're running somebody else's dog, you just don't have that bond with it. I mean, my dogs half the time are sleeping in the bed with me at night, and there's, some guys might say, oh, well, shame on you, that's no good. But I don't know, man. I can read my dog like a textbook. Like I have a hard time doing that with dogs that I don't spend that much time with.
I'm right there with you too. I mean, our dog is, like you said, they don't have a sense of personal space. I like how my dog's kind of needy. That's a good way to put it. I can definitely relate to that. And she's on the couch with us. She sleeps in the bed with us. I mean, she does everything with us, basically. I uh, and so when we get out into the field, there is this hidden language almost that I possess with my dog. I feel like that I think a lot of other people out there can relate to that too, such as yourself, where it's just, man, I this dog knows me and I know it. And it's just this for me, it just fortifies that bond so much more, and it makes the quality of your hunts, if anything, like in my head, just go up. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I I'm definitely right there with you where I think the lifestyle of having your dog in the house and having your dog, in the bed or at the foot of the bed and or, on the couch with you and just with you wherever you go, it just enhances all the things for me in the field at least, and it sounds like it does for you. And
4 dogs, like, it's like, like, I've been told there won't be another one in the house. I think we can squeeze 1 more in the house, but at that point, I've got some things coming, which I don't know that, 5 dogs is gonna be enough. Like, we've got
Mhm.
some big plans in the works, especially
Cool.
this upcoming season. So, like, I'm thinking, hey, 6 dogs is kind of a minimum around here if this is gonna all bust off this fall. So we'll see.
Try
Yeah,
to try
I
to
don't know.
squeeze another dog or 2 in, right? Yeah.
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 It's just life changes, man. We don't have nice furniture around here. I mean, it's all right, but it's not like I'm not dropping $4,000 on the couch. It ain't happening.
You live with bird dogs in the house, you just inherit a you just have to understand that our things aren't gonna be as nice as other people's stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, I
oh,
I
yeah.
I built my own house and, it's like I spent all last summer building my own house, and I got to the flooring and I was like, I'm not putting really expensive stuff in here. I'm just not. Like, they're gonna rip it up, like, I mean, the nails are gonna I tested stuff, and it was just like, I'm just not gonna do it. I'd rather redo the floor in 5 years than spend a bunch of money on really nice flooring and be pissed a year in. Like, I I'm okay if the floor gets a little scuffed or scratched with the stuff I put in, so, yeah, we make life choices like that.
You know, your story, it's funny, man. It mirrors pretty closely to, I had a guy on named Rob Moore a few weeks ago. He's a grouse and woodcock guide up in Maine. Um, and he moved from Virginia, here just in the last year or 2, up to Maine, and he's a registered Maine guide now. And in the last 10 years, he got a Brittany and started hunting, and then now, like, the course of his entire life has changed in the last 10 years, and it sounds like for you too, like, where you said you just started hunting in the last 10 or bird hunting again in the last 10 years, and just the trajectory of your life too, of how these dogs have, like, completely changed your life, where now this is like a business for you, and, has become even more than just a passion.
Oh, it's been a huge life-changing thing. I mean, I've always been an outdoorsman. I grew up in a family, I mean, all we did was hunt and fish, like, I've shot tons of whitetail. I'm at the point in my life where I like venison and I can't eat a rack, so it's like I just don't need any more bone laying around the house, you know? And I
Right.
kinda got to that point with my hunting where it was like I needed more, I needed to go explore, and, like, I had gone out west elk hunting a couple times, and that was kinda the catalyst as well. But then I got to the point where I found this bird dog, and I'm going to all these places that I never woulda went as a whitetail hunter. I mean, even just little checkerboard 80-acre freaking public pieces of land that are, outside of a metro area, like, woulda never went there be to go shoot a deer,
Right.
but, hey, I can kill a pheasant in there, It's just kinda like so it's just this ultimate exploration kinda thing with me. What's the next adventure, and I find with bird hunting, even if you're very, um, rutted in your ways or stuck in your ways and you go to the same covers or same area and hunt every year, it's still different. It's still a little bit more of an adventure of trying to figure out what's working, what's not. And then the adventure of kind of working with another animal to kind of get your quarry. To me, I look at falconers, like especially I know a friend of mine, Jake Thomas out of Kansas, he runs short hairs, a couple other dogs, and he's got falcon. I mean, like he doesn't even carry around a freaking shotgun. Like
Phew.
to me, like that's kind of the pinnacle. So like not saying that I'm like I want to be a falconer or anything, but I find that that bond that we have with our dogs and being hunting with the dogs is just so much more natural than putting up a freaking cell camera and waiting and sitting in the tree and waiting for a deer. I just it's more of like I don't know if I want to call it gentleman's hunt or whatever, but it's one of the, you don't sit in the tree stand and chit chat with your buddy. You might text him, but you're not like sharing the stories in between the field and, talking about things and, you lose that camaraderie. So yeah, bird hunting's kind of this special thing. And I just fell in love with it and tried to make it my life. And it's been, it's not all glitz and glamour. I mean, yeah, or, glitz and glam. I mean, you got to feed the dogs, you got vet bills, you got all this stuff. And, unfortunately, a lot of us guides, we don't choose this lifestyle because we want to, be cash rich. We want to be experience rich and kind of live a little bit differently in defining rich and what a rich life is.
Sure. Yeah, rich in memories, right? And what you're passionate about, and, man, I totally get that. So, you said that really well just then. So, man, you said you grew up hunting, fishing. It was very much the culture of your family. Take me back to your first bird hunt.
first bird hunt with a dog, or like.
Let's do both. I mean, if you've got instances of both, let's hear them both.
Well, I mean, years ago we used to, run around on a piece of property we had, and we'd snipe grouse off underneath the pines in the back, but that's really not that fun. Um, like the first legitimate time I said, you know what, I'm gonna go grouse hunting, um, was probably about 15 years ago, maybe. I think, yeah, 15 years ago now. At the time, my brother was working as a dockhand up in northern Minnesota, and I had, gone up just, heck, I can get a free boat and fish and free place to stay and go visit with my brother, who I don't get to see too often. And, he had to work. So it was kind of like, well, I'm either going to fish or, go hunt. And, where they were on a boat-in resort in northern Minnesota along Voyageurs National Park. And the resort had a couple hiking trails out back that there's no road for 5 miles. Like, it's you're out there. And there's some logging roads, there was some stuff done way back in there, and I didn't know what the hell I was really doing, but I go, "Let's go. I got a shotgun and got a bird vest. Let's go." And I don't get but 50 yards away from the I mean, like, and it's like, "Oh, this is gonna be fun," and of course I couldn't shoot, and it's too didn't wanna shoot, it's too close to the resort, so I kinda got down in there, a couple 100 yards, and didn't move another bird or anything, and I loaded the gun up and hopped across this power line that was cut in there, and I had probably stepped like 2 feet into the woods, and all of a sudden there's a ruffed grouse sitting there on the frickin' ground in front of me, and I'm going, at the time I didn't give no craps about shooting on the wing or anything like that. This dog's down and dirty. We're out there to harvest, And so I shot him and put him in the vest, and I kind of went down a ways a little bit more, and another ruffed grouse sitting right there on a log next to the trail. I shot him too. So I kept going, and it was either the third or fourth grouse. I'm like, you know what? I should try to shoot this thing on the wing. And I charged at it, and I shot it. I was like, holy cow, like, this is pretty sweet. And I got down probably, I don't know, a mile from the cabin that I was staying at the resort. And I turned around. I'm like, this is before. I mean, I had a flip cell phone back then, and so there was no Onyx. I had a compass, and I barely knew how to use it. And so I'm like, I don't want to get turned around too far. So I was coming back, and I don't know, I get that probably 2/3 of the way back, something like that. It was pretty close to the cabin, and a freaking grouse got up next to me and flew straight down the trail. Boom, dropped that fifth bird. And I was like, oh, wow, this is sweet. So I go, back. I got 5 birds in my vest. I've been out there for an hour or whatever. I'm feeling all tall and proud. And I think it was about 3 years after that, I started hunting with a buddy of mine who had bird dogs. And it was like, holy cow, I learned how to hunt grouse, and I learned what a woodcock was. And yeah, it was kind of that. So that was kind of my like most memorable first grouse hunt. It was like I shot a freaking limit, shot it off the ground, but like it cemented the fact. And actually, one of those was a spruce grouse as well, and a spruce grouse hen, which I had no idea at the time. I was like, why is this grouse meat dark? Like, I don't get
Sure.
it.
Yeah, I'm sure that was bizarre.
And it wasn't until a few years later I realized that was probably a spruce hen, so yeah, crazy times. But yeah, my first hunt with a bird dog was something else. It was not anything close to that. Not anything close to that. I shot one woodcock that whole day
Eh.
and chased around a 7-month-old pup. No, she was 8 months old. Yeah, 8 or 9 months old. Chased her around. She flew every bird possible. Like, and I was shooting because, again, I didn't know what I'm doing with this bird dog. Like, he's like, oh, you're not supposed to shoot birds that they don't point. Screw that. I want to eat. Like,
Yeah,
so it was a learning curve for
sure.
me. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I was young and dumb, and we used to have a lot of fun, and didn't know how to do things the right way until we met some of the right people that taught us how to do it. But yeah, those are kind of some of the memorable ones. Um, yeah, she pointed at one woodcock, and I ended up end up shooting it. But yeah, we didn't get a grouse that day, and it took her a whole nother season to figure out how to point
Yeah.
grouse.
Well, that's cool that you've kinda had these stair steps, so to speak, of experiences of where you started hunting grouse just by yourself with no dog or partridge hunting, if you wanna call it that. And then you interject a dog into the scene and, the game totally changes, right? But that's
It took me a while with the dog to figure it out. I
Mhm,
mean, I don't know, I've said to guys, like, "You wanna go kill birds, like, just go walk in the woods, 10 yards and stop
mhm,
and listen. Walk 10 yard I mean, you'll find birds, you'll shoot birds, like, if you wanna really, like, kill birds, like, it's a very effective way to go do it. You throw a dog down, which is closer to their natural predator, and they just come unglued, like, they just do not play the game that, they just they like to hunker down and sit, especially when they don't really know what's coming.
mhm,
But if it's got 4 legs, they don't play that game,
mhm.
and so it's fun to have that challenge every day with the king, you know? You find ones that wanna run, and they give you the middle finger when they fly out the cut, and you find other ones that'll play a little bit for you, and once in a while, we find some young ones.
So kinda on that note with dogs, in your opinion, as a guide as well, and just someone that's hunted with dogs for quite some time now, if someone were to ask you what makes a great bird dog, how would you what would be like your elevator pitch to them? But you can make it a long elevator ride.
That's a loaded question, man, because I will kinda quote, um, Mark Fouts, who used to be the regional director of engagement or whatever up here for RGS. I think he laid it out best about dogs, and he said, he goes, "I run English pointers and a cocker, but," he goes, "I also like to drive a Cadillac." He goes, "Dogs are like cars. They get you from point A to point B. It's just what kind of ride you got," So in that, I think, there's what makes a great bird dog for you and what makes a great bird dog for the next guy is totally different. Um, but like the qualities of the dog in and of itself, there's a few things that, I kind of look for in a dog. Um, Obviously, intelligence for me is like that really makes a bird dog. Like a smart dog is going to figure out any equation you throw at him, but you don't know what you're getting as a puppy. Like you can't tell if that dog's smart or not. Like you're probably not going to know that until dog's maybe at least a year old. You might figure it out a
Mhm,
little earlier, but obviously they got to have a nose. But I've always thought, hey, if you're smart, like a dog that he may even be handicapped with a nose, like I think it's still going to figure out and be a good bird dog. But the one thing that I personally like to see in a dog is drive. I want a dog that comes out of the box and wants to kill things. Like there's no hesitation. Like, I just took one to the vet today for barbed wire, incident. Like, as much as it pains me, like, but I love that the dog's willing to go through the thickest of the thickest crap to sniff out, see if there was bird there, and I only think that really comes from drive. And so, yeah, like you said, it's a multifaceted thing that makes a great bird dog. Um, a dog with a lot of drive that is intelligent enough to figure out that this game is between me and him and the bird and not just him and the bird, that's a great bird dog.
that's really well said. I think the intelligence piece is super, super important because if the dog's all drive but lacking in intelligence, I mean, you've just got for lack of a better word, you've got a monster on your hands, right?
Yep.
Um, but I'm there with you too. I like a dog that has a lot of drive and I think that my dog, I've only got my one experience, but I think my dog has quite a bit of a drive where, I would rather have a dog that you kinda have to pull back a little bit
Yes.
as opposed to a dog that's like, "Man, I'm just trying to get you excited about this." And That's really hard to do. Yeah, it's easier to pull something back, I think, than try to push something uphill.
So you use that reference, and I was told this by an old trainer a long time ago. He goes, "You can always pull a check cord in, but you can't push it out.
Great quote.
You can always pull that in, but you cannot push it out." And so that's been a big philosophy of mine with bird dogs is, where a lot of guys will be, 6 months old, that dog's in NAVDA training day and this and that. And, they're really trying to be structured with that dog. I let my dogs probably run around wild for the first year. As long as you come back, like that first season, like as long as you listen to me, and I can recall you 75% of the time, like, we're golden.
Yep.
Like, you're gonna knock burgers, you're gonna have fun, you're just, be an idiot, but, like, I can throw pigeons out for that dog and, like, steady him up and, like but at the end of the day, I do it, but what teaches that dog is all of those missed opportunities with wild birds, and it's with again, and not everybody can do that. I'm blessed. I can drive 10 minutes down the road and have 15 bird contacts or something like
Right.
that. Might be a little exaggerated some days, but some days, like if I want to go move pheasants, woodcock, and grouse or two, like yeah, I can put a dog on some pretty quick hits. And I just can't, teach them that. Plus, there's this element of training where, um, what's going on and the dog really doesn't, but they kind of know something's off. And yes, can you get great corrections? Can you train a dog? Absolutely. But if I can get that dog to get a correction on a wild bird, I just seems like the level of retention when I go back to that next wild bird, it's far greater. Um, I don't know. I think dogs get bored with pigeons, so you have to kind of keep, changing things up. I use a Johnny house out back, which has been really nice this year. So I can try to get my dogs on a, covey of quail that I got living out back now. Um, but yeah, the wild bird thing is so yeah, I just kind of let my dogs go
Yeah.
for the first year. And then I start reining in and this will be my short hair that's 2. We're gonna try to steady her up fully to shot this year 'cause safety issues and things like that. I'd like to have her steady shot. I'm working with my little pointer. I'm not gonna put a ton of pressure on her to get there this year. And we'll kinda leave that to next year. I'm trying to run her in some field trials, so I'm trying to kinda let her be a little bit more wild than any other dogs that I've ever had, and it seems to work, she's definitely pointing birds, so I'm not putting a lot of expectations on her this summer. We'll see how much pressure she can handle. Unfortunately, she's 2 weeks out right now from doing any bird work, so, um, yeah, damn
Yeah.
dogs.
Yeah, at the end of the day, uh, wild birds are always gonna be the best teacher, right? Because they don't just like what you were saying earlier, they don't play by the rules, they know their escape route in the cover, all those kinda things, and I think the best teacher for dogs is that because they have their best teachers to be put in those unpredictable situations that the birds present to them.
Give you this example. I turn my dogs loose out somewhere where they haven't ran on a regular basis. They run around like great apes. Turn them loose out back here on our training grounds. They run, you know, 4th gear. They don't
Mhm.
they don't they don't put it in 5th gear. They just don't. So it's getting them in that other scenario that I think is so crucial. And then you throw a wild bird in the scenario. I think it's even more, educational for them than anything else. But I do think being able to train in scenarios that are not normal, like just even a different field. Like I'll go train my or dogs down the road after August 1st. We'll go plant pigeons down the road or something like that, just to get them in a different scenario because I know they're going to run totally different than they would where we've been training for all summer. So yeah, wild birds in the equation, and it's like holy cow, I haven't smelled woodcock in a few months. Like, bing.
I've got a couple homing pigeons, and I noticed last year, I took them probably a mile and a half down the road and I put a bird in the woods, And I could tell there was a difference in, like, how my dog handled it because it was an unpredictable situation where she knew that something was going on and that, like, she still just, like, trusted her instincts as far as point and everything, but her etiquette with it was a lot more clean than if were we just to do it, like, in a predictable area where she's just like, "Oh, I know what this is," and it's just like
And that's when I think too, you've got a more of a situation where the dog may decide it's going to flip you off. So if you can correct in that scenario and not get the dog to, come unglued, it's just a better experience for the dog, something to build on.
So on that note of wild birds, Wisconsin just released their drumming survey. I know from last year for the 2024 season, it was up a significant amount, over 50% of drumming that was observed. Um, and this year it's down slightly from that, but still on a overall, still we're at a high point, is what it sounds like for Wisconsin grouse. So what are your thoughts on that? I've not read any more into it, but what maybe if you had any observation with broods or just kind of, based off of your experience last year and kind of like what you're looking forward to for the next season, anything like that?
Well, so the drumming survey is something I struggle with every year. It's the timeliness of the drumming survey, I don't think serves as a great indicator for how the fall can go. I think there can be, obviously we have to make it all the way through nesting and brooding season before we really get to see where the birds are at. Now, it is a good indicator for how many males are left after hunting season going into that season. So it's a metric. I kind of treat it as a metric. It's definitely not like holy grail information around here. I do like it when the drumming reports are up because then the customers call instead of down years where, people say, oh, there's not that many grouse up there, which I would say, those are some of the best years we have because we don't have a ton of out of state travel into the state. So like there's a lot of opportunity. The woods are kind of empty in comparison to what it is in some of the peak years. Um, so to kind of give a little bit of a background on the drumming report and the way that I kind of slice and dice it. Um, our grouse here run in like a 10-year cycle is kind of what they've found. Of that 10-year cycle, typically the peaks happen on years ending in 9, 1, and 0. So 2019, 2020, or 2021, 2020, 2020, those years were quote unquote our peak. So we're in 2025. We should be in the trough of that peak in a 10-year cycle. The fact that last year we had a 57% increase in drumming coming out of already being at relatively high numbers of that peak. And then to follow up now with this slightly, I mean, we're talking a couple percents down in a drumming report. So we're still, I think they said 57% over 2023, which would have been kind of on that bottom side downswing. So there's something a little off with this 10-year cycle, or conditions were just absolutely perfect for good brood rearing. Either way, we're at that point where that trend starts to upswing now because we're heading into that '09 or 2029, 2030, and 2031. Crazy to even think about those
Mhm.
numbers. Man, where did the 2000s go? But with that being said, that we're kind of right in the middle of that trough, and we're still seeing significantly, an increase in drumming numbers over the last few years. It puts us in a really, really good spot. I would say that 2023 winter into dry 2024 spring left us in a great position. Our brood success last year, I would call, was moderate. So, we were running trips on about a 25 bird flush rate a day with customers last year. Things were a little higher in 2023. Um, I'm anticipating that we're, based on the weather we've had during the brood rearing part of this season so far, and we had a mild winter, so there's not a lot of not a lot of weather related, mortality there. Um, I think we're going to have a fantastic grouse season this fall is my prediction. And that's kind of even regardless of what the drumming reports show. Um, Weather's good, brood rearing's good. We're seeing broods. So, I think we got two thumbs up from, where we're at right now. And we only have good things to come in the future. Pending any big hailstorms between now and, October, things will look good.
Yeah.
Cover is looking really good.
That's really exciting. For anybody that's maybe planning a trip up there, that's a really good report from a local to have. I do think it's interesting how just kind of like what you're getting at, where it's like we should be at the bottom of the cycle right now, but in this mysterious way, like bird numbers are still great, and we're
Yeah, we're at, I mean, from that drumming report perspective, we're at the same peaks we were at the last peak,
right.
which was, 2019 roughly. So the fact that we're already there, I mean, that's a great testament to what our state has done to keep young successional forest on the landscape. And we've gotten lucky with the weather. I
Sure.
mean, even with, like I said, moderate to poor brood success last year, um, it was still a very, very good season for us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I'm kinda kidding too, but, like, if this is the bottom of the cycle, man, I can't wait to see what the peak's gonna be like here in about 5 years, right? I mean, anything can happen, but yeah,
There were days back around 2019 where we were moving 40 birds a day.
that's
So,
wild.
um, I'd like to think that maybe that's not something of the past. I've heard stories of, the old timers talk about moving, 80 plus birds a day. Um, I don't think we'll ever see that again. But, if we can get to something like, 30, 35 birds a day, if you're willing to put in a good effort on it, that's incredible. And I think that's just RGS is doing great work. The state of Wisconsin's doing great work. You have to get out and give a shout out to, the counties in Wisconsin who, would have extensive logging programs. That county forest land is very well maintained. The deer hunters don't like it, but hey, as a grouse hunter, I'll take it all day long.
Deer hunters don't like it just because it's so thick and tough to hunt from a deer hunting perspective.
There's just they come through and clear cut, and, a deer hunter wants to hang a tree stand. It's like,
Sure.
so I mean, just inherently there. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of deer hunters, and there's plenty of areas up there to hunt on county land, and I see a lot of them. But it's yeah, it's it. I think most deer hunters don't like loggers as much as they probably should.
Yeah, yeah. I can see for that reason why that may be.
Logging is just a tough deal. Like, the logging industry hasn't really done itself much favor. They have a bad rap from, leaving a mess behind. But B, like, I think the hardest thing for people is the nostalgia piece. Like that oak tree that you cut down, it's never coming back in your lifetime. And I think that that's a big, big, big thing for a lot of private
Mm.
landowners to swallow. And then you've got, people that have hunted the same tract of public land their whole life, and logger comes in and cuts down that, 100-year-old maple they've been hanging that tree stand in, and he's probably not too happy about that.
Yeah. I've never
I think it's just a nostalgia piece, and like I said, those trees just don't come back overnight. So
Yeah, I've never thought about it from that perspective, from a deer hunting, or just, whatever that tree might mean to that person. Because we get excited, right? We're like, "Oh, man, if I just wait till 8, 9, 10, 15 years, this is,
5 years, and I'll be chasing woodcock in there.
yeah, but, yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about, but we are thankful, right, as bird hunters that there's a healthy logging industry across, those upper Great Lakes states um, and yeah, and that produces a lot of birds, right? So, and, on that note, so if let's say someone wants to book a hunt, they're excited about the reports, the drumming reports for the state of Wisconsin, they wanna book a hunt with you, kinda take us through, like, what a day, with you as a guide, what can they expect?
Yeah, so at least for my Wisconsin outfitting business, We don't partner with a lodge right now. There just isn't the right lodge that I've been able to partner with or find to be able to bring that all in for a customer. So there's one flat rate. You show up, you get a bed, you get a meal. I wish we were there. We're just not. So what we do is we have places that either we've negotiated a special rate or we place, I've got a couple customers that stay in Airbnbs. I've got a few customers that, hey, they just want to be able to bring one dog inside at night, and as long as they can take a shower, like they don't care if it's a, cheap motel. So a lot of that, how the experience goes is kind of varying on what that person wants. So I kind of work with them on the front side to get the accommodation set up, so that, it's reasonable, everybody's fair. And then, so when it comes down to a day of hunting, I actually meet clients at their accommodation in the morning. I've got some customers who want to meet at 8 and they want to go to breakfast and then they want to go hunt. I've got some customers who, they want to, they're chomping at the bit at 7 a.m. to get out, and I have to go, hey, cool your horses. We got to let the perts move around for just a little bit. So, but typically I'll meet the clients at their accommodations. A lot of times my customers will have a dog or two. So, they end up following me out, or, some of the same, I've got a few customers that it's just a single client. I'll just pick them up for the day. What you get with me, unfortunately, is I have enough room for 6 dogs, but I only have enough room for one other passenger in my vehicle. So a
Yeah.
lot of times, I guess most of my customers, it's 2 guys. They're coming up to hunt together, or, guy and a gal, husband and wife. I've had, daughter, mother, daughter. But, a lot of my customers have a dog. And the reason they kind of want, to go out with me is they don't really know the place or all that well. They don't feel comfortable, and they probably don't want to hunt their dog all day long. So they want to hunt all day or 2 days, but they only have so much dog power. So they'll typically follow me out. We'll hunt, from about 8 o'clock in the morning until, 11 noon, depending on, at what, depending on where we're at for the day and what clients want to do from a lunch perspective. I will do lunch for clients. We can do brown bags, or I can bring a Blackstone and we can have fajitas for lunch. So typically that's kind of what we do for a lunch scenario. I've got other clients that just, they want to go sit down and have lunch at a restaurant. I'm very flexible. This is about your trip and your experience. Like, I'm just here for the grouse hunting, so then typically we will go, do lunch, and then we'll go back out. We'll hunt till about an hour before sunset. I don't typically hunt any later than that, just because I want to give the birds enough time. There's a respect level there for grouse and woodcock, that we don't need to be pestering them right up until dusk. The only time I'd make an exception to that is if for some reason in October it gets really warm in the middle of the day. And so if it hits 70 degrees in the middle of October, we might be taking a longer lunch. And typically what happens with those days, the nights aren't so cold. So I don't feel so guilty maybe pushing those birds up to a half an hour before sunset. We'll try to give as much as we can out of the bay, but unfortunately weather is one of those things I can't control. So really, at the end of the day, if you want to hunt all day long, I'm probably the best guide out there to do that, because I'm an addict. I just want to watch my dogs find birds all day long for customers. Like, that is my drug. But I've got customers who want to beat the brush all day. I've got other customers who kind of want to take it easy and do hunting, and it's more about just being up in the North Woods. So we kind of price ourselves in that space. So, accommodations are really up to you, what you want. You can spend whatever you want on the accommodations, but our guide price is based on 2 customers. So they can share that price, or if one guy wants to, float the whole bill. You always get a little bit better experience when you're with just me and a client versus 2 hunters and a guide. It's just, you've grouse hunted, Ryan. You know how it is sneaking through the brush, trying not to kick this bird up until you get right on top of it. So I limit my hunts to two clients and one guide. That's the most we'll go. I have another guide who, if we got bigger groups, we can take up to four clients for the day. But that's kind of our max. We run kind of a small operation because we really value the quality of experience that our customers have out in the woods with us.
Yeah. Well, and to your point too, there is a safety issue that comes into play as well with when you're going through the grouse woods. It's not like pheasant hunting or quail hunting where you can see each other typically the entire time. So, I mean, the most I've ever hunted with another person grouse hunting, I think is just one person.
Yep.
You can't, you have, there's just no way possibly that you all can stay like in, kind of in a singular line together, for that matter. You don't know where each other are. There's a lot of times you're kind of breaking up and having your own little micro hunt within the hunt.
Yep.
And so it's yeah, it's a small amount of people that you can do it and do it well and do it safe, with. So that's a good point too.
Yeah, we're hunting edges a lot. So, and one thing you're going to get with me is I run one dog at a time. I give that dog a shot, and we're going to run that dog for an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And I'm going to put down a fresh dog for every run that day. So typically we're running through, if you bring a dog, we might not get all 4 braces in, but we're getting in a good 6 hours of hunting hard, and you're getting a fresh dog that whole time, which I don't know that a lot of other outfitters are doing. So we're hunting those edges. So we got a dog, me typically in the middle, and I've got, a guy on maybe the open edge and a guy inside the aspen. And we're working that edge, that's typical how things are done. So it's done for safety reason. It's done to cover the edge correctly. And I don't need 2 dogs out there running around, running wild, trying to keep track of clients. Like it allows, I think, for just a more personal hunt. You start getting, I've hunted with 3 guys, all with dogs, grouse hunting before. It's just not fun. Like, it's hard enough to keep track of 1 dog in the grouse woods, let alone 2. And it's just, I want that fresh dog for you. Sometimes the dog doesn't have a good day, and having a fresh dog always changes the game. It always gives you that little bit of edge.
So Brian, at the end of season, at the end of October, at least when you're done guiding or done doing primarily the bulk of your guiding, what do you hang your hat on as a good success of a season?
I mean, there's a lot of things, you can hang your hat on. The stuff that rings home and sticks with me is obviously the memories that I have with clients, those moments, creating those memories. Getting that phone call mid December, going, hey, do you know where I should take this bird? Like, I don't have a taxidermist for it, and it's like, and then you either, a lot of clients have, taxidermists or whatever. So you get the phone call or the picture in April of next year, and you're like, hey, I got this bird mounted. And it's like, that to me, is where the success lies. I mean, people are willing to spend not only their money to come up and hunt with me, have a great experience, but they're willing to kind of put something on the wall, something that they're going to take into the future. Depending on how taxidermy goes in families, I mean, maybe the next generation too, but, it really comes down to those memories, and it's not just memories with me, I mean, think one particular client that I've talked to, crap, probably about a half a dozen times, between last season and this season. And, he's just got that one dog. Like, man, I love hunting over Luna, like I just, and that to me, that tickles me pink. It's what really keeps me going back. Obviously, bird numbers. I mean, and getting good dog work on birds. But, and I'm just not in business if I don't have those memories made with clients at the end of the day. And, I'm in the experience creation business. Yeah, we run, bird dogs and, hunt rough grouse, but at the end of the day, they're coming up here to have an experience with me, and that's something I hold true, and it's the bottom line, man. You know, seeing that picture of that rough grouse mounted on a client's wall, like, it's a real honor.
You said that, like, creating experiences for people, and there's a book that we read as a team here at work called The Power of Moments, and it's all about making moments for people that where you go out of your way to make this kind of memorable experience where it just kind of puts the roots down in the experience all the more. I think about a vacation that my wife and we went on a Disney cruise for the first time this last winter, and at the end of the cruise, we just happened to strike up a conversation with an employee, on the cruise, and we found out that she was like a higher up, there on the cruise line and with the company. And she said at the end of our conversation, she said, "What room number are you guys?" And we told her, and she said, "Well, I'll have something sent to you guys." So we're like, "Okay," we're real excited what this could possibly be. It was an invitation to an event that not everybody had. And so thousands of people on the cruise, and like 5 families had this invite at the end of the cruise to come in and meet like all of the what they call cast characters. So everybody that's played all these princesses and all these different, like, Captain America, all these different characters throughout the week on the ship. And so it was an amazing thing to like our roots, like I said, are so much more planted now, even in that experience, because someone made a moment for us.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're getting at too, where it's like it's not about shooting a limited grouse, which is so hard to come by anyways, no matter how plentiful birds are or not. But it's making memories for people where now they're not simply just clients. Yeah, they are, but they're also your friends, right? And people that you're hoping to have back, season after season because they had such a rich experience with you.
Yeah, and it's as we kind of expand out in New Mexico this upcoming season. It's those clients that they mean a lot to me because they become friends. They want to go experience something else with me, and so it's just that's what it's all about, man. That's how I hang my hat every year.
Absolutely. So when you're taking those clients out in the field, or even if you're out in the woods by yourself, what's a thing or two in your vest that you don't leave the truck without?
Well, my vest is probably stocked full of stuff that a lot of people don't carry just because again, I'm taking clients out. So, I might have an older guy and I'd have a splint kit or, just a skin stapler. And, so I have a lot of stuff in my vest, but I definitely don't go anywhere without like a needle nose pliers, a cable cutter, small cable cutter, for snares or anything. Skin staplers, I mentioned already, full med kit, um, lots of water. I always carry lots of water, even up here in the North Woods. I've got clients that'll run dogs and they'll grab a water bottle from, a 24 pack of Mountain Ice or whatever. And I'm like, I look at it, oh man, you should grab 2 of those. And, it doesn't we don't get too far down the trail and they're out of water. And up
Mhm.
here, it's one thing, we usually have creeks and puddles and lots of stuff but last year we had a really dry year. So there wasn't a lot of water in the woods. So yeah, we carry a lot of water. I carry a couple redundant things. So compass, GPS, phone. So I have 3 forms there, three ways to navigate. Um, yeah, that's kinda most of it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Um, yeah, that's kinda the gist of it, not
Yeah,
not anything out of the norm, I guess you could say, but usually just a little bit more than oh, yeah, I forgot to mention, honey,
yeah.
honey.
Well, honey, yeah, yeah.
Right,
Let's talk about that for a second. Why do you carry honey?
because I learned a couple years ago going to a seminar about hypoglycemia in dogs, and I'd never seen it before. Um, had actually one of the other guides that works for me. He's got a pretty big run-in wire hair, black dog, or not, black and roan. And we ran that dog at like 70 degrees one day, and yeah, I saw kinda the glimpse of, like, it starting with him, and then, yeah, I just recently had it happen to me with a dog. So, I carry honey. It's just one of those things where, recently at my older short hair, we were out dinking around on a hot day, wasn't even training, running. I went back to get something in the pasture, came back, and, she had basically collapsed and started, twitching and, going into seizing, and I kinda recognized it right away, picked her up, scooped her, ran inside with her, doused her with a bunch of honey, and, like that. She was hot, but,
Help snapped her out of it.
Yeah, yeah, and since then had her checked out by the vet. She had some low blood sugar when we had her checked, so it's something that now is on the radar for me with that older dog. So it's definitely I've had honey in my vest for a couple of years now. I never had to use it, but yeah, it's something I carry around.
Yeah, something that I think of, with honey is, we're obviously not gonna just probably bring a whole jar of honey in our vest, that'd be a little excess weight, right? But if you go to KFC, it's the only place I can think of where, they're on the bar, yeah, grab you a couple packs of honey just to throw in the vest, when you buy your meal, and, it can be potentially a life-saving thing, for a dog, and help get them out of that that panicky state, at least for you, of where this dog.
My wife found like a mini bear, honey bear. So I kind of, found some oddities, stuff like that that I fill up or, have in my vest throughout the year, small container that doesn't leak. I've used small containers inside of a plastic bag, double wrap
Yeah,
plastic bag sometimes if I don't trust it.
yeah,
It's just one of those things where, a little bit of honey in the bird vest is easy to deal with
right.
when you look at the not having it potentially and what could happen to your dog.
Yeah. I think the water thing is, that's pretty redundant with us as bird dog owners, but it is a good reminder of take a look, just take more than you think you need because you end up drinking some of it. And we easily forget that our dogs cannot sweat. They just can't. Panting is their form of heat dissipation. And yeah, so they have to have that water to cool down, even throwing some behind their ears and their armpits, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I actually keep a little alcohol in my truck too because I've heard from vets that if you get them in the armpits with alcohol and on their paws, it'll help cool them down.
Hmm,
Something with the elaboration of the
that makes
alcohol helps
sense.
them. You know, uh, Again, I'm not a vet. The stuff that I've had to do with dogs in the
Yeah.
field.
No, that's a good little tip I learned myself. So man, as we're winding down here, I've got one more question for you, but before that, I just want to give you an opportunity if folks want to come up and they want to experience the Northwoods and Wisconsin grouse and woodcock hunting with you. Where are those places that they can find you at?
Yeah, you can definitely find me on the web. It's www.amaazen.com. So amazing.com. Follow me on Instagram. That's Amaazen_outdoors. Facebook. Give me a holler. Telephone number is 920-277-5750. You want to talk about coming up to the Northwoods. Yeah, we've got 2 guides this year, myself and another guide. We've got some capacity with the addition of another guide this year. And yeah, so if you want to find out more, website has most of the information, but best place is probably just give me a
Yeah,
holler.
right on. And I'll put that stuff in the show notes too, so people can easily click on it when they're listening to the episode. But Brian, one more question for you here, man. It's been a ton of fun. Um, what keeps bringing you back to the uplands?
One simple thing, dogs.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the dogs. Would never stumbled into half of the places I've gone without dogs. And yeah, this is the dogs, man. Following that dog, watching the dogs learn, progress. Even, watching old dogs screw up once in a while. I mean, that just keeps me coming back, man.
yeah,
How can we do it different?
yeah, absolutely.
Go,
And
go slice it a little differently somewhere else, and I mean, I've traveled across the country with my dogs and I for the last, you know, 5 years, it's been a dog-centric life, and I wouldn't be there without them.
it's a very good reason. Brian, thanks so much for being on the Upland Social today, man. It was a lot of fun. And who knows, maybe one day we'll be able to shake hands in person. It'd be awesome.
Absolutely, man. You come through Wisconsin, you better give me a holler.
All right, sounds good, buddy. Thank you for listening to the Upland Social, an extension of the Hunting Effect Podcast Network. Recording and editing of this podcast, plus intro and outro music, was performed by me, Ryan Linton. My aim is that through this episode, you are more equipped and inspired to explore, conserve, and celebrate the upland hunting lifestyle and the beautiful places it takes us. Until next time, whether it's right here or out in the field, we'll talk soon.